Okay, where do you, we're gonna start with, the Water Commissioner's, request for Dennis Senecal. Raise, COLA raise, or,
It's a 2%.
I thought it was, is it 2 or 1?
2%. 56 cents, I believe it was.
Right here. Yep. Where we did the budget.
And Francine and George, we voted on this last meeting and we voted it down 2 to 1.
I read the notes.
Yeah, if you want to review the minutes.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
Were you going to approve the minutes before we move to this? I mean, is it?
Yeah, we should.
Yes, all in favor of approving the minutes for last meeting dated, yeah, pull my notes, excuse me.
September 10th, Chris.
September 10th, say aye.
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 I'm abstaining. I wasn't there.
Yeah. And I'm saying aye as well. Do you want to talk first, Joe, in regards to this?
Yeah. The reason that I'm here this evening is because you denied or not approved the 2%. Now, when we went to the annual town meeting, we showed right on the water tech 40 hours, a 2% increase in his paycheck, which would have taken us from $28.10 to $20.66. And the town accountant even approved that that money was allocated at the annual town meeting. So I'd like to know why was the 2% denied?
We denied it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were there, go
Okay.
ahead.
We denied it because there's a select board mandate to all department heads that there were no non-union increases. So we followed that rule, that mandate.
Yeah, but how can you supersede what the annual town meeting voters approved?
Well, I guess the best way I can describe it is if we had a vacancy, let's say we put the budget together at a certain salary for one person, that person left, we turned around and we hired somebody for less money. I think what we're obligated is to not go above what was approved, but I don't believe we're obligated not to go below what was approved.
I don't get it.
Nobody else got a raise, Joe.
No.
You know, I've been in this town government here for, I don't know, over 40 years in this water department as a superintendent. And there was times when this ruling that you people have just stated here didn't hold any water whatsoever, because some people got raises and some didn't. Some were union, some were non-union. Some had a contract, some didn't. But this is an enterprise fund. It's not affecting the tax rate. And we raise this money internally between ourselves.
So I wasn't a part of the last meeting, so I didn't vote on that, but my thoughts are, I can't speak to the last 40 years. Thank you for your service. But I think that at the core of this, we have an issue with COLA increases. However, I don't overly disagree with Joe in this sense, because this was something that was approved, and whether we like it or not, or townspeople like it or not, the Water Commission is somewhat of a separate entity. And if it was approved and it's in their budget, I mean, it's not affecting the general fund, and you can't really tell them that they can't if they're funding it. I mean, I don't disagree with the fact that, ideally, I do think that if no one's getting a raise, one person shouldn't. I mean, I agree that it should be fair across the board. But the way the town is set up now, at this point in time, the Water Commission, if they have the funds to do so, can give a COLA.
And that's what I stated the last meeting we had, that unfortunately, this was appropriated at town meeting, and the town voters did vote to approve this raise.
Did they vote specifically to approve this raise, or this as part of the whole budget package the way it's presented?
It was a dollar amount. It wasn't broken down, was it?
Right.
No.
Okay. And I don't think it was transparent the way, you go and you see pages and pages of numbers, and people are seeing it for the very first time in town meeting. And if it wasn't articulated that there was an increase in this particular position, because the understanding, I mean, and I'll speak on behalf of the select board here, I mean, we agonized over not giving people raises.
But you have to.
We said that we had to cut people's time. We eventually found a way of putting it back in, but everyone is sacrificing, and it was not clear that 2%, because I believe instructions, if they didn't, should have gone out that there were no increases for non-contracted and non-union.
I understand that part, but you have to remember, the water enterprise is a separate fund.
I understand.
There was a wage increase in that line item. So if there were no raises, then there wouldn't have been a wage increase in that line item. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, but
It was snuck in. I think.
But at the end of the day, you can say it was snuck in. You can say, I mean, I agree. Like, don't get me wrong. I think if no one's getting a raise, then one person shouldn't get a raise. If one person getting a raise, everybody needs a raise.
I totally agree with that.
But the way that our town is put together at the moment, the Water Commission, if they have the funds, can more or less do whatever they want. So, if that is something that...
Based on what the voters... Now, if the voters clearly understood that there was a 2% increase in that whole budget for one person and not anyone else, I don't know that they would have approved it quite the way they did.
Maybe,
but
maybe not.
Unfortunately, they did.
I know what you're saying.
I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's not right that one person get it over everybody else. But then you have to deal with, unfortunately, we have the facts that the budget was in there, their wage increase line was, their wage line was increased, and the town did vote on it.
But that doesn't mean that we have to spend every nickel that's approved by the town.
But it's also their fund to do what
it is their money.
with it.
I mean, that money's not going anywhere else in the town. I mean, that's their money to do what they want with. I mean, we can't just take that. Unfortunately, I mean,
I hear exactly what you're saying, and I understand the circumstances.
I mean, I don't disagree that, this was approved, therefore it's their money, he should get it. However, there is going to be some windfall from this. I mean, people are going to say, okay, well, I want COLA increases. So, I mean,
That sets precedents.
You can downvote it again, and, we can take it to the select board and take it to a special town meeting. I mean, it depends what kind of path you want to take with this.
Well, I think we need some clarification from someone who understands the legal issues with this in terms of the obligation that the town has vis-a-vis an enterprise fund, and how, and I would wait for that. That would be my first go-to.
Well, then that might be something that, you know, might be your first duty to take back to the select board and possibly legal.
I mean, I mean, we need some clarification, and if it is the way you're describing it, then obviously we're obligated, and we will do a better job of screening those budgets than we did this past year. But it was, I'm not making any excuses, but it was not transparent. There were no presentations to the finance committee because we essentially didn't have one, where all of this detail is kind of flushed out. So, but I would, for myself, want someone to tell us what we're obligated to do here.
This is our indirect cost that the town takes from us. That goes into the general fund right there. $93,946, and now we're squabbling over 56 cents.
Now, the 93,000 pays for the services that the water enterprise derives from the rest of the town, like the billing and the mailing and the accounting services, all the overhead. It's their share.
No, billing and invoices is a separate item. Communications is a separate item. Education and travel, electrical, gas, office, and all the rest of it that goes in. Insurance is for town employees, highway employees that work with the water department from time to time is part of that. So
Yeah, basically
we
that
pay
indirect,
our fair share all the way around to the town. So it's not costing the town of Southampton's general fund a plug nickel.
yeah,
So
I'm kind of,
That's not the issue. So do you want to revisit this, Christy? Would you like to?
yeah, I think,
Go from there? Make a
I think
motion?
to ease everybody's mind, if Francine, if you could get some legal opinion on this, if we can,
Yeah.
clarification.
I will do that. We're having a special meeting just on the town warrant on Tuesday. It won't be until the October 6th meeting that I could bring it forward, just so that I can put some time frame on it for you.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, so we can put this to bed.
And then if in fact it is, you know, we're obliged to do this, obviously the increase would be retroactive to the beginning of the fiscal year.
Will it be retroactive to what, October?
Yeah, his,
So, yeah. What was his date?
yeah, his anniversary, 9/24.
Yeah,
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to revisit this after Francine speaks with legal or select board, however you want to select the course.
I would have to take it to the select board. It's not, you have to work as a group. I don't. So,
All right, I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
I think so.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I think the next item we have on the agenda, and it should be the only thing, because we only had 2 items for tonight, correct, Robin?
No, we had
Oh, we
2
have-
more PCFs. Eileen Hamel, election worker, and Timothy O'Keefe is a firefighter.
That's correct, yes.
And then we had a PRF, which we need to decide if we need to vote on or not.
That's correct. Anybody want to talk about The first one?
So Eileen Hamel, the way the election went, there was no warden, so she was used as a warden. So that is a 50 cents increase for that day. And anytime she does that position. So it's $12.50 an hour versus 12. So she already worked it. But
So
we need to
are we
get
replacing someone?
No. So with COVID, we had several election workers that could not or chose not to come in, which our wardens were not able to come in. So last minute, they chose her to do it.
So
She's
is
already
this-
an election worker.
Is this going forward, or this is just a retro pay for that, the day she worked?
It's going forward if they need her again. It's as needed.
In this capacity?
Yeah, they may need her again. So yes.
But she is going to move forward regardless as an election worker, but possibly as a warden.
Yes, if they need her as a warden, then she can pay her as a warden
Okay.
officially.
I agree to accept with that.
I see nothing.
Okay, I'll motion to approve. Judge, sorry.
So I motion to approve if we maybe put something in the comments about the rate, the warden rate being as needed as a warden.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It says as needed for elections.
So like, but this is as needed as a warden, but she's going to move, she's going to be an election worker
She'll
regardless.
continue as an election worker as long as she wants to. Well, as long as she's reappointed.
So I guess I just want to somehow clarify, she'll only get the $12.50 if she is acting in that
Yes.
capacity.
Yes.
Right.
Only wardens get the $12.50 notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that has been the established rate
Yes.
Yes.
for wardens all over. Okay.
So George, did you just make a motion?
Yeah.
Motion.
So I motion to approve this with the understanding that this new pay rate will only be when she works in that capacity.
Yep.
Robin,
I'll
has she, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Quick question. She has been paid already, right?
Yes.
Okay. Next one up is Timothy O'Keefe for fire.
I motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And
So Christy, the PRF for everyone, there's a PRF from the assessor's office. There's already a PRF in place. So she is, now that the budget has been reestablished for her to hire a person back, she submitted this. So I'm not sure that we actually need this because this position has been approved for the exact amounts on the agenda here. $15 an hour for 12 hours a week. It's part-time, non-benefited. So I don't think there's any need. Normally when we do the PRF, when we make changes is when you need a new PRF.
So not one thing on this PRF has changed?
No, it's the same.
Okay. Then
has she hired anybody?
No, she just wants to repost it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So she submitted it, but I wanted to make sure after what happened with her funds being taken away and then given back, so they have been voted on.
as long as she posts it for the required time and all that, I don't think you need to revote.
All right, so I'll let her know that I'll give this back to her and she can go ahead and post.
That sounds good.
Oh, we also have the EMD position on the agenda.
Right.
We were asked to rescore. There was a few things that changed on the job description.
So, Robin and Christy saw my email. Francine, to catch you up, Charlie's the emergency management director's position is, we scored that, oh gosh, what, a couple months ago?
Yeah, it was in June, I believe.
June. We came up with a score, pay scale, pay range. And now they want to rescore that because there's a couple changes. From what I can tell, we have one change that's really just changing DPW to highway. And then we're adding that this position works with the select board. And then we're adding CPR certified, and a bachelor's degree in a related field is preferred. So outside of CPR certification and a preference towards a 4-year degree, there's not much changes to this. And even if, personally, I would say I wouldn't go up a degree in scoring for the knowledge portion for the bachelor's degree because it's a preference, it's not a requirement.
Correct, yeah.
But even if we did that, it would still be within the same pay range. So we can go through the motions and rescore it because there were changes made, but I mean, there's no.
I feel that I'd like to approve the new job description and leave the scoring the same, in my opinion.
And Francine, what do you think of it? Christy, Francine?
Well, I guess because these funds that we're using, and the only reason this became a stipend is because care funds were made available to the town. This is not a town position. It's not one that I know we're doing a description since he's, is functioning in that capacity, but in the past, it's always been a volunteer. It's
Right.
never been a paid position. So because of COVID and I think the intensity of the workload, there is a stipend. So if I look at this wage range that you put together, the agreed upon stipend is $1,000 a month. If we're saying 14,000 to 28,000, we're talking more than $1,000 a month, even at 14,000.
Right.
So
We did not approve a PRF yet saying that this person would be getting $1,000 a month. So that's
Right.
just what is put out there so far. Rumor.
so this is
The other question I had on it is, the only thing I have, and I'm going to ask if you folks have a handbook that you go by for other things, or, your policy guide, if I somehow can get a copy of it. If Matt has one, I'll ask him to give me his.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I'll send one to you.
But the only question I have is the other document that I referenced was the non-union salary classification that was put out, and we only went up to grade 6, and this is a grade 12 position.
So, long story short, back in, before my time on this board, a handful of years ago, Art and the board had a gentleman come in who the town had brought in to help the PPPB at the time kind of go over how they score positions, and they brought in this whole system of doing it. And we have had discussions over the past 2 years about how it does work, but it's kind of this general scale that's from like 30 years ago. Obviously times have changed, but it still holds fairly relevant in its pay scale. So when we classify these things, we're looking at them as town positions. Now, I fully hear what you're saying, and that this isn't actually really a town position. This has traditionally been a volunteer position. Now there's up for debate on whether.
But when the grant goes away, the money goes away. It will not. The
Right.
plan is not to replace it with town money.
Right. So, like Robin said, we haven't approved this to be a job.
No.
anywhere in town. So I don't really know where this job description and push for scoring is coming from, if this is a temporary thing. Because the further down this road we go, the more weight it's going to have to be a job. And I don't know how far down that rabbit hole we want to go.
Yeah, I think that kind of inadvertently commits the town to something that I'm not sure they're committed to.
So I feel like this whole meeting has turned into things that you need to address on your first day, but I don't know if at some point, like obviously this position over this year has served quite a purpose.
And it's an important purpose. The difference is I don't think the job responsibilities would change at all.
Right.
And I think it's good that we have it documented. The difference is in the past, it's always been voluntary. And now it's not even salaried. It's considered a stipend.
So the argument has been from individuals that this is above and beyond a volunteer position. The time and effort and work it takes to do this. And I can't really speak to that. I don't know the ins and outs and every detail of this position. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, if this is something that once a global pandemic goes by the wayside, if this is not something that the town cares to continue more or less in a broad sense of stating that, then I think it should be very clearly stated by the select board and the town that this is a temporary position that is only being funded until funds run out.
It has always been a position in the town. We have always had an emergency operations manager or director. Mm-hmm. They've just been voluntary, and we've never found ourselves quite in a situation as we are right now. And there was an opportunity to provide some minimum reimbursement for time and expenses through this CARES Act. Mm-hmm. But that was we voted on it, and that was the language of our decision would be as the funds are available, and they are. And so this is what we agreed to. No one's talking about how much time and all that. I mean, everybody understands it's a lot of time. It is.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we know how much, because this is the first time hearing this, unfortunately. How much money was granted on this position for the care?
It was $1,000 a month. They put in for 15 months, so $15,000.
Okay.
And it started in April, May, June of last fiscal year 20, and then 12 months of fiscal year 21.
Can this person be paid as a vendor versus an employee?
That's an interesting point.
Mm-hmm. They've been paid when? How? As
a vendor on the vendor warrant.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So why are we scoring it if they're paying under a vendor?
No one's getting paid anything.
They're not getting paid yet. Okay.
We're at the very, very early stages. Yep. We were asked to score the position, which we did, and now we're asked to rescore it because they changed the position slightly. So that's where we're at here.
So I think you have your terminology from the select board that this was funded through this stipend until the money is no longer there.
Under the CARES Act.
I guess before we get too far down the road of unintentionally making this into a town position, there probably needs to be some clear statements from the town and or the board itself that, as this job has been, this persons have been doing a great job. This is a great thing, but this will not be a town position post stipend. It will be a volunteer position, not a paid salary position.
How did this come to you? I mean, who approached and asked for?
I believe Ed may
I
have.
think Ed did, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ed or Rini, I'm not sure which one,
Okay.
contacted Art to ask to add it to the agenda.
right. And again, you don't want unintentional consequences. It was not, I think it's good to have a description of responsibilities. It's
Sure.
just,
Is there a deadline on this grant? Does it come to an end in December?
December 30th, yes.
So, yeah.
But we don't have, that was phase one. Whether phase two goes beyond, I don't know. The phase two application has not been received and it has not been submitted. But it will be, all of that will happen soon. But yes, the understanding was and whether it applies, was December 31st, 2020 on the money.
So I guess I would move to not rescore this. We can accept this job description 100%. I think the changes that were made are good for the job. So I move to approve the description, but I don't think we need to rescore this. And I think maybe, if you and the board talk with Ed about this position and what direction he may be trying to take with this, I think there just might need to be some higher level of clarity on what this position is trying to move into.
I understand. And you're right.
If you post it, you have to put it out there, go
Right.
through the whole hiring process,
And-
and then eliminate it,
And then you need to find,
and then find another.
$20,000 worth of funding.
Right.
Yeah, a vendor warrant may be the option, paying them through the vendor.
But it also depends on what that grant states, what the grant state says for now, and then if they're going to move forward, yeah, there's got to be a lot of clarification as to if it does move forward on how this is
I
going to
believe
go.
it states we can pay somebody, but we're trying to figure out how to do it in the correct way.
Without creating a position, a paid position.
Right.
Okay, because no one up to now, the history of the town, they have not done that.
How many hours a week outside of a global pandemic does this position actively work?
Well, we would have to ask for
don't know.
documentation. Honestly, I did speak with the former emergency operations director at one point in time. And there are, required meetings so that they stay up to date, travel associated with that. And he had some out-of-pocket expenses that he estimated to be somewhere around, I don't know, a couple $100 a month out of pocket as a volunteer. And that's what he was doing. Okay.
Well,
But
then,
in all honesty, he was discouraged because he wanted some reimbursement from the town, and that was not made possible. Okay.
so maybe going forward, I would say this isn't a paid position, but maybe down the road, there's a way to figure out some type of minimal reimbursement for travel expenses or something.
And I think this is in that category. This certainly doesn't cover all of Charlie's time, but it does offset because he does attend a number, or participate in a number of meetings. I don't think anybody's traveling anywhere anymore to meetings. They're all happening like this, but there is, otherwise expense. So, but yeah, it all needs to be cleared up, not to put it on.
Okay. I will second George's motion.
All in favor of accepting the motion, accepting the job description as is and not moving forward with the
Scoring.
Scoring, excuse me, it's been a long day.
Yeah,
I'll say aye.
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 aye. And I'll get clarification.
That would be great. Do we have a book or anything with all the scorings and how you guys did the scorings and all that?
I sent it to everybody. It was attached to the email.
I'm getting off beat here, not just on his, I mean,
Christy, why don't you, there's a file cabinet upstairs. If you want to come in, we can go through it. It has all the scoring books in it, all the hard copies. Anything you have questions about, we can go
yeah, because
through
I'm
it.
kind of flying blind and I don't.
Hand you over
like-
the-
No
Sure.
problem. So yeah, there's a couple different books based on, you know, what level of position it is, exempt, non-exempt, all that, and
Yeah, Okay.
it's all in there. Robin can show you it all.
Yes, I will.
anything,
Although it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to point out that we need to reach out to finance to find a liaison for us.
yeah,
True story.
Oh, we have a new group, so I don't know how many are on right now, but hopefully they're able to organize and print.
do they have a full board now?
I think they have 4 or 5.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
I don't
I'm
think so.
good.
Okay, when is our next meeting again, Robin?
Oh, when is it? The next meeting is October 22nd. However, the fire chief gave me a PCF today and he has another one coming. So I told them instead of waiting until the 22nd, we can do an emergency email meeting. So maybe the end of next week, early the next week after that.
It's
We'll
fine.
see, maybe next Thursday. I'll reach out to everybody, make sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Just a quick email meeting, just to approve the, he'll have 2 of them at that time. So I'm gonna wait until I get it, and then
Okay.
I'll forward it to everyone. Okay?
And
Okay.
I do appreciate you have your whole meeting schedule for the year out. That helps a lot.
That's Robin. That's Robin. That's Robin right there.
Well, that's how we did it before, and it fell. So if we had a PCF, it's signed, we'd hand it over to the select board member, they'd take it to the select board, they'd sign it on Tuesday. It just made the circle very quickly. It just helped matters, that's all.
Well, that's
Anything in between, we have no problem doing an emergency meeting. We're all easily, we're readily available, so.
Yeah.
You're good.
Can I ask a question, just quickly for clarification? Are consultants, do their contracts or I don't know what they give them, but does that ever come before you folks?
So consultants are usually paid on a vendor, like, I believe the assessors use a consultant to do some of their work. He's paid on the vendor.
But there's no kind of agreement that holds the town harmless in the event they make a mistake. I mean, those kinds of things.
Should be if there isn't.
Probably should be.
I don't know. I've never been involved with the vendors.
Okay. All right, I was just asking because this is a lot of detail for.
I haven't had any vendors any contracts to deal with vendors come before us in the past 2 years, at least.
Well, so Joe Slattery, Christie, was used as, what was he? He was a water, after he retired, he came back as a contract worker.
Yes, he did. I think he was paid on a monthly basis.
I'm not sure how that worked, if he had to sign something, an agreement. Who approved it, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how that worked out.
Okay. All
But
right.
yeah, we could do that too. That's another idea.
I don't want to pile it on. I just was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if nobody's got any further, I move to adjourn this meeting.
Okay.
A second. Time for Jeopardy.
And hopefully next time I'll have, if we have another Zoom meeting, I can get this camera fixed.
No problem.
We can,
Okay, I'll be in touch with the PCS sometime next week, just so everyone knows what's going on.
okay.
All right.
All right, I'll be in
Welcome,
touch with you.
Christine and
Yes,
Christy.
welcome,
Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
Bye, everybody.
I'll be in touch with you, Robin, soon to try to set up some time to meet with you.
Sounds good. All right, everyone, have a good night.
All right,
You
bye.
too.
Thank
Take it
you.
easy.
Bye-bye.